Just to let everyone know how tonight is gonna go, we have some like questions for our panelists, but there will be times when everyone, and for the people online as well, you will have opportunities to ask them questions as we go, multiple opportunities throughout the night, right? So our first topic of the night is marketing. So for anyone on the panel, that if you want to talk about the most unique or successful aspect of your marketing strategy, and I can see Isaac already thinking. Have you stumbled upon something?
It's just, well, for us, it's being who we are that's unique. Being Black, Indigenous in Toronto and in this country concept called Canada is unique in itself. For us, we weren't raised in a reserve. We were kicked off our land, but we had land to go to. But we maintained all of our Indigenous agricultural techniques. So that's unique for us when it comes to marketing. So we relied on that and market that. And through that, we've been able to meet a lot of people who want to work with us next year, especially when it comes to how we earth help. And so we rely on that mostly.
Would you like to add?
As I mentioned before, my marketing is fairly easy, which is great because I'm terrible at it. Like many farmers, the business aspect of running a business is not what I was interested in doing. So, and you could probably tell by my PowerPoint there that it's definitely not a natural skill for me. So, but really just, sharing who I am, what I'm trying to do, that education piece has been incredible, because it is so much. So much has been able to travel, so much word of mouth has been able to be created that way. Because not only do people have the benefit, but then their friends, their family, their neighbors then can see what they're getting excited about. And I think that a lot of businesses who are able to kind of rely on that excitement is powerful. Passion as growers is powerful. I know that a lot of my experience in the past with other farmers is I want to go back to the farmers market table where I see that farmer loves what they do. They love the soil. They love building it. They love feeding people. And I've been fortunate enough to have a super supportive community that markets for me, because they appreciate my passion and what I'm trying to do.
Like building upon word of mouth, but on telling your story, right? And do you find the same or different?
We got our big break through being picked up by Blog TO when we first launched. So we have our presence on Instagram mainly, as well as a website. And through a big push to find land partners, that's where a journalist reached out. And so that was a big win for us early on. And then beyond that, I mean, we're growing flowers on front yards. And so it's quite visible. People stop by all day long when we're there. And even when we're not there, they'll talk to the folks who actually live there. So that it kind of sells itself. Beyond that, because we have two different customer bases, we have our retail operation as well as our wholesale operation. So the wholesale operation is a different network entirely because it's florists, right? And so because we belong to the local flower collective, we're able to network with those sustainably minded florists in a way that's been quite helpful.
Okay, so I think that's you all three of you have very has found success in marketing through, showcasing who you are and your brand and what makes your business or your enterprise unique. But have you ever encountered a challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge? I can see Jer nodding. There was already one.
Yeah, I'm trying to overcome one right now. You just spoke of Instagram. So lots of folks have run into social media issues when you have passion about social issues, and the companies that run these. So I'm currently, I tried to build up an Instagram profile for a while. I don't have an explanation for exactly why it happened, but I found myself locked out for some time. So that was a way that I was reaching, one of the methods I've been reaching out to my community. And that's something that's been cut off and kind of neutralized for the moment. And the difficulty with a lot of these companies is it's not like there's a number that you can call to start working this out. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that, or am I going to have to kind of restart that that marketing end? So like that's a challenge that I'm running up against right now is, do I further invest in that, or kind of find another avenue? You know?
Yeah. So you're still in the process of figuring.
I'm still in the process of trying to get somebody to answer me.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah. So, and that was definitely, yeah, like I said, that was an important part of how I was reaching out.
Yeah. Are there any other challenges that you'd like to bring up that you face in terms of marketing? Lots. We could be here all night.
Oh, geez. When it comes to marketing, like, even though being Black Indigenous is part of our challenge, is part of our success, it's part of our challenge as well. Because you're going against people who don't know the history of this country. And when they see someone like me, they automatically assume they come from somewhere else. Then they meet my sister, my mother, my nephew, like, well, where are those people from? They were all the same people, right? So that's actually part of the challenge. But I've been fortunate enough to be who I am in the city of Toronto, and people know what I do in the city. So they gravitate to that. But it's still a challenge when I meet new people.
Yeah.
Because they will say, oh, well, aren't you from the Caribbean island? I'm like, no, I don't come from there. Aren't you? No, I don't come from there either. Well, how do you know all this information? Because I grew up this way. Well, where do you come from? Geez, people, I keep telling you, I come from Essex County, southwestern Ontario, right?
Yeah.
So that's always a challenge, but we always get over it because people they realize, oh, okay, by the third time they get it. And then the challenge of social media, because lately I haven't been posting as much. I'm allowing my sister and nephew to post, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, we need to post more, right? Just to get our name out there. So doing that with social media and finding out which one people are actually going to, because as I realize, as my niece has told me, you must be old because you're still on Facebook. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, of course, I'm getting up there. Well, what's the new thing that kids are doing now? How to engage them, right?
Yeah.
And so there's that challenge. But if you are more persistent with it, it will work out for you.
Yeah.
Just never ever give up. Like I always tell people, when I'm going to ask for something, I do A, B, or C. I have 3 suggestions. I'll start with A, don't get that one. I'll start and do B. Don't get B, I'll do C. But they're all the same, just slightly different.
Yeah. And you usually find by C it's okay.
Yep,
Okay.
it's always fine by C. Wow. But you do know that A is similar to C, but it's slightly different.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is like both of you have been using social media, and I know you use social media as well. And I think that's great because flowers, again, very aesthetic and pretty. So, and people gravitate towards that on a platform like Instagram. Have you ever encountered challenges maybe through social media or any other aspect of marketing?
I think I've had pretty good.
Excuse
me. I've had pretty good success on social media, but as we scale up production, there is that like anxiety of, am I actually going to be able to sell these flowers? Because we have so much. And so that's the next challenge, right?
Yeah.
Once you sort of tap into your immediate audience, who's next? Are they gonna like your product enough to actually tell their friends and family? I'm not sure, because flowers are a premium product in this day and age. People are struggling, and so it's hard to sort of make that calculation of what do I spend my money on, right? And so that's something that we are coming up against. And in terms of like, I guess the challenge with marketing I find is in person sometimes. So one place we used to sell at is a very well respected farmers market, and our product looks great, but in terms of the competition, if you will, within that farmer's market. There are lots of vegetable growers who also have like a few bouquets on the side that they'll bring. And it's kind of like a loss leader for them, in that they'll sell it for whatever it costs for them. And then it draws people in, buy a whole bunch of other produce. But for us, because that's our only product, essentially, we have to charge what it costs to open, keep our doors open. We pay a fair wage in the city of Toronto. And so it's not being grown in a place where you're able to hire migrant laborers for what is like not a fair wage, in my opinion. And so what we've come up with is, instead of going into the summer season and competing with all the vegetable growers that have their bouquets for $12 to $15, which is a fraction of what you can get from a grocery store, believe it or not. We specialize in dahlias that are really difficult to grow. So veg farmers don't necessarily want to invest that time. And then also we're doing our spring flowers, which is like specialty tulips that look like peonies and roses. So things that you don't necessarily see in a farmer's market.
Oh, yeah. All right. So that covers our section on marketing. And before we move on, I want to open up, to everyone here as well as online, if you have any questions about marketing that you would like to ask our panelists. Yeah.
I actually have an idea for you. Have you connected with the Ikebana
Yes.
community? Okay, I was just, because then we thought, hey, you know what? Special flowers, people who really get the flowers. So just a thought, but obviously you already have your contacts.
Well, in terms of marketing, I'm going to take this platform. We started offering a year in Ikebana workshop series. And so Ikebana is an ancient Japanese practice of artful arrangement of seasonal florals. And what it has evolved to these days is using imported products out of season. And so we're really embracing the sort of original essence of that art practice, which is using local products and seasonally. Yeah, so sign up on our website.
Well, I was also thinking for people who are professional Ikebana designers and teachers themselves to use your flowers for their design. It was less for taking a class, more for as a source of a potential market for you. That's what I was wondering in terms of whether you had, because I know that I know a few people who are master Ikebana teachers. So, I was just, that was the first thing that.
Let's talk more.
Amazing. And we also have one question online from Shah. Do you want to ask your question?
Yes. Thanks to the speakers of Toronto Urban Farmer Training and organizing this program, the organizer. So my question is on flower also. What's her name is speaker? Sylvia?
Sylvia. Aisha.
Yes, Sylvia. Okay, so because I am also a gardener and I am also growing flowers around edge of our community garden, and we are doing this, as you know, as you also mentioned, flower is beautify the area, attracts the pollinator, environmental impact, ecological impact, biodiversity impact. And you also mentioned the thing, that's my question, because reducing carbon, that is main thing you are talking. And you mentioned that flowers grow in Ecuador, goes to Holland. Holland also, they are also growing flowers. And then from there, these are going to different locations. Lots of pollution are being happened. And you mentioned that 1.5 times carbon emission is coming from those flowers. Okay, but my question is this: you are growing. I saw your nice flowers. and also you are marketing those. How much carbon you are saving? You mentioned how much polluted carbon is, but what amount of carbon you are saving? Your organization or your firm? Thanks, Sylvia.
So for everyone in the room, if you're not able to hear, the question was how much carbon Sylvia is able to save
Yes.
in comparison to the traditional conventional
Right.
flowers.
Yeah.
If you
So
have
the-
anything, any assessment or any statistical data, it's all right. Or if any assumption or anything you can provide. Thanks. Well,
Thank you for your question. I did have a slide that talked about our business impact. And so for the 2022 growing season, we were able to sort of divert 450 tons of carbon emissions.
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
And the slides will be shared with everyone after the event. So you'll be able to reference that number from Sylvia's slides. All right,
okay, thanks.
thank you. So we'll move on to our next topic for the night, which is accessing space, which I am personally very excited about. So how were you able to access the space or spaces? Because I think all of our panelists are growing in multiple spaces. So how are you able to access these spaces?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, lots of individual agreements, kind of looking to people in particular who had overgrown gardens that already existed. Particularly raised bed gardens. As I mentioned, I exclusively use regenerative techniques, and so what I initially was going, I wanted to make sure I was getting into spaces where I didn't have to start off with a lot of reparative work, where I had soil that was very alive, and I could get down to the business of actually producing food. But yeah, talking to people, and there are limitations to that, most certainly, because it does provide a little bit of instability outside of within the season and outside of the season. For example, one of the garden spaces that I used this year, they unexpectedly had to do an emergency roof replacement after a nasty storm. And despite instructions and all of those things, the roofers dropped shingles as they ripped the roof off. Death just absolutely destroyed my plants, and there was asphalt then mixed into my beautiful soil. I may have wept when I first saw it. And you know,
eyes welling up.
yeah, I got that phone call like, Jer, it's bad, Jer. So like that was a space where ultimately with the with the partner, we decided to take a step back for this year, because the height of the season, I did not have time to do asphalt removal or total soil removal, just to remediating it. Our roofs are asphalt roofs are toxic, and it just kind of rendered it off limits. So we're actually going to look at it in what we can do in the spring to try and get early spring to try and get that going again. And it looks to be that I'm going to lose the land that I've been growing on in Peterborough, which has been really good for some staple crops. I've been growing large amounts of garlic and potatoes and other sort of important staple crops there for a good few years now. And so yeah, it's so for me, it's the land access is something that is constantly in flux. And it means that I don't have to outlay the money for a farm, especially growing in cities is absolutely obscene. So it does mean, so I don't have to invest, but then I don't have the guarantee of being able to control the space as well. And as farmers, there's a lot of things that we already don't have any guarantees about. So yeah, there's a little bit of definitely a little bit of a risk with my model, even though it makes things more accessible and allowed me to get started faster.
I want to speak to that as well. So because we are a distributed farm, currently we're growing on 8 plus 2 different yards, it is quite inefficient in terms of getting around. And flowers are pretty perishable. So one of the things we are really aware of is the location, the proximity of these yards. So we grow on about 4 different neighborhoods in the west end of the city. We've had many people approach us with land in Barrie, Oshawa, Scarborough. Those are too far for us. I'm happy to share knowledge like with folks who are in those areas to be able to practice a similar model, but it's really not feasible for us to actually do that. And in terms of the guarantees, I totally feel you on that. Prior to commencing the business, I did speak to Sarah Nixon from My Luscious Backyard, who successfully grew flowers residentially in the West End for 18 years, believe it or not. Yeah. And so because I had that back and forth with her, I was able to sort of feel like, okay, so we need a paper agreement of some sort. Mind you, it's a letter of understanding. There's no like legal recourse, but at least it is a way of establishing expectations, right? We're really clear in terms of having zero tolerance towards hateful speech, because we are BIPOC, and it's essential that that's like front and center in our communication. Also, flowers are harvested in darkness, right? We're there at 5 in the morning or we're there at 9 p.m. So the timing of harvest is also stated clearly in our contracts. And we try to be transparent as much as possible because nobody likes surprises. So we have a land partners page on our website. So before you even contact us, most of this is spelled out. And then after you contact us and still want to talk to us, besides just, oh, free landscaping and flowers, great, sign me up. There is a contract that we'll actually present to them. And another way of sort of making sure the cost share is fair is we're usually ripping up lawns. And I hate lawns. Nobody should have lawns. And so in that respect, there's a lot of reparative work that needs to be done and new soil needs to be brought in. There's a ton of labor of actually taking out the sod, and time as well if we're using tarping. And so all of that gets worked into the model where we expect a long-term relationship. We don't want you to change your mind after a year of us putting in all this labor and you putting in all that nice soil. And so as much as possible, I want to gauge the person in like a relationship versus a transaction. And hopefully over time, they're happy with what we're growing, right? Like as flower farmers, we're able to say, hey, what color palette do you like? Do you like vibrant colors or do you want like white flowers everywhere? So we're able to offer a little bit of that value in exchange. So yeah, it's worked out for us mostly.
So my question is, has it gotten easier as you've kind of built up a reputation of using other people's yards? And I think you use yards as well. Like, has it gotten easier to convince people and say that, oh, this is like what I do and here's photos and you can take a look at it? So over time, do you find that that's less of a challenge to get spaces?
Yes and no. So I think everyone has their own picture of what a flower field looks like. And there's certainly very picturesque flower fields that they think are farms. We grow intensively with rows and with posts and with mesh and with like organza bags. So I'll show folks pictures. Yeah.
That's good.
So let me answer the question for us. So for Crosby Gitch again, I will say this. To access land for us was difficult in the beginning. To find land was difficult in the beginning. Then we were approached by an organization within the city of Toronto to work with them. But the drawback was this: we could farm there, but we're basically paying rent every single month for this land, and the rent was basically almost $1,000. And even in the wintertime, you're paying the same rent for this land. And so for me, I was like, I'm not doing that. I said, I refuse to pay for land, first of all, for being who I am, for being my background. And I refuse to pay anything that's gonna be like $1,000 a month. And we are farmers. That money's not gonna come for later on. And so looking at that and then seeing the contract that was signed up for us, right? Going through the contract and looking at the contract on, okay, I'm not gonna sign this contract because in the contract it stated that after when you sign this contract, the person who's in charge to be considered the how do they say it? They're gonna be considered the master landlord.
Oh, God.
And so for me, I'm like, yeah, so hey, so let's talk about your contract first of all. Then we'll talk about your land use. I'm like, when you have something like this and you are wanting to engage people who are non-white, and you have this right here, I said, for me, in my background, coming from part of my background being enslaved people, this is a major red flag for me. You're the master landlord, and you came to me, wanted me to be part of this. This is not going to happen. And so we backed out of that one. Walked out of that one and said, no, can't do this one because my guy's going, no, we'll have too many troubles there. Then I started thinking, now how can I find land for us? Because we really need to get a farm. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's Melbourne Farm. And then because I work at University of Toronto Scarborough campus as well, from their farm campus. Even Beatrice said, try Melbourne. Tried Melbourne, boom, got it free. No contract, no anything. The other place it was a 5-year lease. This one, there's no lease. You're there till you want to be there. You leave when you want to leave. Here's your key. There's the water. Go at it. Simple as that. And that was perfect. I was like, this is what I'm looking for. Yes, it's out in Melbourne, but it's a beautiful. I didn't realize how beautiful it was out there until I started going out there. It's really beautiful out there. But the fact that there are places in the city of Toronto that are charging so much money for people for land use, to me, I think is absolutely disgusting. That shows me that they are not proper farmers. They are business people that have land, which is very, very scary because they don't know what they're doing. All they see is money. Especially when it comes to people who are Black and Indigenous and can't find land to farm in the city. To me, I think that is disgusting. So for us, like I'm looking at the whole hydro corridor thing, and I followed to my sister and Aiden and said, listen, we got to get one of these. We need our own. We need one that's going to focus on Indigenous farming agricultural techniques because we don't have that in the city of Toronto. But yet everybody wants to have our agricultural techniques in their backyards, in their schools, in their businesses. But yet we can't get access to the land. Does not make sense. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Right, that's some very different, like, stories of using land, and each one of us has our own like experience with land. And I want to open up again for questions about particularly accessing space or using space, both here to anyone here or online. They're saying that that was a really good point.
It's not a nice term.
No,
it is not a nice term.
Well, the thing about the term is that there's master in it, and it's also a lord.
And pay rent.
Yeah,
exactly. And pay rent on top of that.
But calling you master wasn't enough. Okay, it seems like we don't have. Oh yes.
When you're talking about getting bounced off of social media, have you heard or you tried to go to the alternative one that's been started up? Daily Wire, there's a whole bunch of them. Like they're starting an alternative set that you can't be bounced off, saying this or that or something else.
So there's some interesting potential building in social media right now where some things are being generated that don't necessarily have the same corporate ownership and things like that. So the downside of those those sorts of things is like one of the downsides for me is in particular is the world is very hostile to the queer communities at large, and the trans community in particular. So giving up the despite the fact that I don't appreciate them shutting down my voice, there can be a lot of inherent danger with the anonymity that they allow in some of the more independent and smaller and like up and coming social media pieces. There are issues with rampant harassment and discrimination. And so those are factors that, and I mean, we're entering, you know, my communities are entering an even more hostile time right now, where public safety, and especially I'm traveling a lot, so often harvesting at odd hours and things like that. Yeah, it hasn't felt like in their infancy as they are right now. I think that the potential is good down the road, but as they are right now, that the lack of spread of them, because it kind of needs to be to a certain size before it's really effective as a tool, before you're really hitting before you're hitting the communities that you're actually looking for. But then also it presents safety issues for me as well. So it is something I've considered, but I think that and perhaps would take a closer look at in maybe who knows, maybe things will expand over the winter here, but maybe in the spring or the year after that, when maybe some more things have had a chance for traction, to gain some traction in the world and really show what they are willing to do. Maybe stepping up with things like moderating and making sure that there isn't some criminal harassment and doxing and things like that that exist on all of social media right now. So
I didn't think they were happening in the alternative media, like it was Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. Like there's a whole bunch of them, and they've got a whole group of whatever's on regular social media. They've got the same thing on alternative. And they don't allow any of that kind of stuff.
Well, and again, to not to potentially sort of unleash some of that, but I mean, Jordan Peterson is a great example, who's the freedom that he's looking for on platforms like that is freedom to discriminate. It's freedom to spread hate. And various personalities like that will rile up their followers, and being in proximity to those spaces. Like I want to be, when I'm operating on social media, I want to be on a social media platform that they don't allow him to be on, because I don't value a space that is unmoderated. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't value people's speech and the exchange of ideas and all of those things. But I do need to be in a space where hatred is not validated, where those kinds of ideas are, where it's made very clear that those kinds of ideas are unwelcome in those spaces. And if I'm going to contribute to new things that are happening in the world, I want to contribute to those spaces that are building people up, that are building communities, not tearing them apart like a lot of the individuals similar to the ones that you named there as well. I mean, you named two particular individuals who are noted opponents of the existence of people like myself. And so I should probably stop with it there, but yes, but I appreciate that. I do appreciate the thought of it. It's definitely something I've considered at length.
Like I'm not on that group and I'm not on the other group. And matter of fact, I'm trying to figure out how to delete myself from Facebook, because I'm just an old broad and I don't need any of that stuff. And what I'm finding is that what they're starting to do is they're starting to gain information on people, cross-checking it to find out who you are, and then categorizing. And like, I got this really bad feeling that the first group of people they're gonna try and wipe out is old people, you know, what they call the useless leaders. So it's like I walk off Facebook, like I went to a food bank and they got this sheet that they give you, that they want you to sign that you are allowing them to ask any question of any organization and share the information with all these other organizations. And I took one look at that and I said, I'm not doing that. So it's like, forget it. See, I have a food bank place right outside of where I live, and I thought, eh, I'll give it a try. They gave me that sheet, that was it for me. Cause it's, I in 2020, I wound up not being able to walk well. And sitting there just, all I can do is watch YouTube. So I'm watching all of this stuff happening and everything is starting to come together with depopulation problems of crap. What
Again,
is
I
it?
appreciate your suggestion, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
excuse myself
Yeah.
from any further
And
participation with
we
this
also
line.
we also have another question, but before I go to it, I just want to make sure that the people online can hear. But since they haven't replied, we can just go on with the question. So
Probably have to repeat it, there's no mic here, but all three of you have talked about soil in different scenarios. So I'd like to have sort of an open question about the challenges of soil in your location.
So for the people on the line, it's about the challenges of soil, a very open question. Okay, people can hear online, great.
I can start. So because we are interfacing with manicured lawns most of the time, I have to convince the folks to say, hey, we're gonna take this all away and we have to replace it with healthy, nourishing soil. And the big sort of hiccup I encounter is how much that costs, because we don't have the time to actually compost on site and sort of regenerate soil in that slow manner that is like hyper local within that yard. And so, yeah, we work with Pure Life Soil and bring in their organic living soil as well as warm compost, and we hand over the bill to the residents. We say, like, this is an investment in your property, and so I'm not going to pay for it. You will, and you get to reap the rewards.
There you go. Okay, so for us, the fact that we're growing food in hydrocorridor and heavy clay, compacted clay soil is a great challenge for me to teach how to re-amend your soil and how to do it from scratch. We did want to do some stuff with Pure Life, but it's too late in the season for us to do it. We thought maybe next year we'll bring some in for added amendments to the soil. But for us, it's looking at what it can and cannot do with the soil and adding more wood chips to it, adding some charcoal to it, make sure there's more organic materials in it. And at the same time, using any leaf material that comes from our plants as well goes back to the soil. So that means that when it comes to the composting part for us, we're not giving our leftover stuff to the compost bin. We're recomposting everything back in the soil at that spot. Because when I tell people that your plants are growing in that spot, if it's a heavy clay soil, the clay has a lot of minerals in it that just need to be unlocked. That's all it needs. So you unlock it, you're growing these plants. Now you plant stuff with all these beautiful leafy green stuff like that, and you cut them down, and now you're going to go give them to someone else's compost bin. When in reality, those plants should be composted right back in that spot. So all that means to us, the way I was helping my grandfather, is that dig a trench. You dig a trench, take down all your refuse, make sure you cut out the soil base, keep your roots in the soil for the next year, get rid of the next year, take all the greenery, all your brown stuff like that, put it in your trench. If you have any vegetables or any fruits that you bring from home you're eating, that goes in your trench, you just bury it over. that helps your soil for the next year. And on top of that, well, we've always done charcoal. Now we're doing biochar. So redoing making our own biochar. And people need to realize that when you add your charcoal or your biochar to your soil, it sequesters soil. It sequesters the carbon. It keeps the carbon in the soil. It brings it down to the soil. And I don't understand why we are not doing that in all gardens across this country called Canada, putting our charcoal back inside the soil. We have a disconnect when it comes to certain things in soil, right? So my whole goal has always been to teach about redo your soil. If you can spend the money to get rid of it if you want to, but I always say don't get rid of it, save your money for something else, because it's 2023 and your money is needed for rent, hydro, car note, school, you name it, it's needed for that. Just learn how to rebuild your soil from scratch. It may take a year or two, but it's well worth it because you're putting your own time and effort into it. You're not adding anything into it that you do not want into it. Okay, off your soapbox again.
Yeah, I love that. It's the way that I look at growing is that I'm not growing plants, I'm growing soil. And if I do that properly and drop some seeds in there, then everything is fine. Because really, from a biological perspective, the community that we're actually engaged in is that microbial community. I mean, we've killed a lot of that in a lot of these spaces, and we got to engage. Spend a lot of time talking about the processes we need to get that going again. Things like compost, in particular. I love vermicomposting for that reason. It is you're starting with intense bacterial colonies. Yeah, really, the plants are a byproduct of what is already happening. The soil wants to produce. And then all I have to do is help it to pick which ones are going to be there. Well, sort of understanding what the land is. When I'm starting a new garden, I look to see what is growing there already. What is the soil? And assuming that I don't have toxicity issues, I'm also looking to see things like what are the so-called weeds that are coming up? What is already, how are they similar to the things that I want to grow? What do they show me about it? Oftentimes you get dandelion explosions where surface calcium has been depleted. And those big long taproots pull it up. So if I go in and I pull out all of the dandelions, which originally, by the way, were brought here as a food crop. They were brought here intentionally as a vegetable because they grow so well and they're so nutritious. So I look to, hey, is my soil okay? Well, first off, I'm going to harvest these and view it as a valuable crop. But then I'm also understanding, hey, the calcium is depleted in the top layer here. So I'm going to have to pay particular attention to that as I'm building up my soil. Sometimes when I'm starting a new garden, I will do a first year cultivation. After that, I'm never substantially breaking the soil again. And that is a big part of that soil regeneration process. When my plants are done, I'm cutting them down at the root, leaving all those beautiful bacterial colonies intact, and then just planting in between the spots. But yeah, really viewing it as what I'm doing is tending to, I've got a new wild creature friend, and I'm really just kind of tending to its needs, and then it's able to tend to mine. But yeah, soil toxicity is probably the biggest thing, which, I mean, we can mitigate by separating that soil. We can use raised boxes and things like that, and they certainly have their place. But I'm trying to work towards helping to heal the land in the best ways that I can. And if I have that separation, then that healing's never going to be what it can be. So yeah, sometimes it means not being able to utilize space in a moment because you've got to take the time. And I might need to use various manual or biological techniques to draw them out. I use in more damp places, I'll often use cattails. They're fantastic. They can be fantastic at drawing heavy metals, for example, out of the soil, and other things. They're incredible filters. In all of our marshlands, they're what keep our water clean. Yeah, just kind of engaging those processes, just pulling out those things that are toxic and viewing the rest of it as this isn't a problem. This is part of just helping it to kind of restore the balance. Starting with, for the most part of my raised beds, I start them with hugelkultur mountains, which is incredible, and extends my growing season. Because as West and I were speaking about the other day, the heat that comes out of them is incredible. And those beds right now will keep your hands warm in the cold wind. So I try not to look at it as problems unless it's past a certain threshold where it's just not safe to deal with. But how can we bring it into balance?
We really could pick your brains all night, but we already past the time. However, I do want to give people online an opportunity to ask questions, because the people here will be able to maybe hunt you down tonight. Just kidding. Stop you from going out the door. So if there are any questions online, for the people who want to type, and I think there was one earlier, which was for Isaac, which was how did you deal with the squash bugs?
Oh, the squash beetles. All right, you ready for this? Okay, so dealing with the squash beetles, there's a few things you can do. If you're growing tomatoes, you can use the tomato leaves as your insecticide, your pesticides. That will kill your squash bugs. But if you want to go a step further with that, you're going to want to add 70% or even 90% rubbing alcohol. So maybe one bottle you can buy at Dollarama. So if I was making a mixture with that, I would do, well, what I did at the farm was I took about 2 cups of tomato leaves, chopped them up. I took about 2 liters of water and 1 jar or 1 bottle of 90% rubbing alcohol and bought at Dollarama for $1.25. Yes, they still have $1.25 stuff there. It should be called $5 and more stores. What should be called? So I took one of those, mixed it all together, give it a good shake, strained out all the tomato bits, put in this spray bottle, and use that and sprayed my plants from top to bottom, underneath the sides, the stems, and even the soil. Just make sure you spray that soil. That will kill the eggs and the bugs that are there. What really kills them is the rubbing alcohol. The rubbing alcohol, because it's over 50%, it's either 70 or 90%, it goes directly to the soft bodies and eats their soft bodies. Does not destroy your plant. The rubbing alcohol will dissipate in the air. Okay, will not hurt your plants at all, but it gets straight to the beetles. Then once you're done that, I went to, once again, my favorite store I call it Dollarama. They had these tunnel things that were their covers. They were $5. And they are absolutely amazing. So once we sprayed everything, I put covers on everything. And that kept the beetles out. And then I made sure once a week I'd go through and take the covers off and look for any, just in case beetles got underneath of it, got rid of the eggs. And then that subsidized all that. I found that there were people on the farm who were using, what is that tree, that oil, neem oil, which is sort of banned, by the way, in Ontario, just to let you guys know that. And I found out, told us that neem oil is fine if you want to use it, but here's the thing with neem oil, it kills everything. All your beneficial insects are gone, right? I said, you want to try something different. And they said, okay, we'll try it next year. So that's what I do. I try to keep it as natural as I can, because our slogan is where how you grow matters, right? Because we do everything that is no chemicals, we just a no-till garden, don't rototill, we use pure human labor for certain things like that, and use our garden to maintain our garden.
I hope that answers the squash bug question. And it'll be our final question for tonight. Michelle, you can go ahead and unmute yourself to ask.
Hi guys, thank you so much. I'm driving around and trying to get to the gym, so you have my still picture on there. But I have grown ever since I was 8 years old, and this is my happy place. So I do not have any kind of chemicals whatsoever. It is a labor of love, emphasizing the labor. So a couple of things. Japanese beetles and grapes, they are killing me. And yes, the neem oil killed everything. And then also, how am I handling rodents? For the most part, they're not eating my vegetation, but they're lurking around, and I just want to not attract as much as I have. And I think this is a 2-part. So Seneca is in the room, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, Seneca, You may have heard my voice before. I need your
Yeah.
proof. So, so King City, give it up smooth. We need partnerships to get good manure to be able to support healthy growing. And that would and then one thing somebody enlightened me to, but maybe you know much about, is using copper rods in your soil to help assist with growing. I took the lazy way. I went to Home Depot, shoved them in the ground before it got cold, and let's see what happens in the spring. Thank you.
I can talk about the copper, or it's also called electroculture. That's the name they have for it now. But you need to know that copper has been used in indigenous gardens for thousands of years. We've always used copper. When we had our poking sticks that people would like to say when we're poking for corn, we had a copper tip. So here's the thing, copper versus steel. We've been using steel for farms in North America for 100 years now, however long they've been practicing that. What steel does to the ground is this. It releases a negative charge on your soil and makes your soil really hard to retain water. When you add copper to your whole garden tools, stuff like that, what copper does, that copper will chip off, but adds a positive charge to your soil, which allows your soil to retain water. And your plants need a little bit of copper. All right. So we use copper at Crosby Get Together. We use copper tools, and we have copper wire that's running on bamboo poles, some on leftover sticks. They're running into the ground and coming out of the ground. All right. We're doing that for two reasons, well, actually three. One, because I think it's kind of cool, it's kind of good. Two, because it's retaining our indigenous knowledge. Three, it's actually helping offset some of the whatever those electric forms are coming off the hydro wires. It's helping out as well. When we put our copper in, even my sister, she did put copper in her house plants as well. Things just started growing. They started growing. But when you're actually doing your copper wires on your bamboo poles or something like that, make sure you're going clockwise instead of counterclockwise. If you go counterclockwise, it's not going to help your plants at all. It's going to destroy your plants. Whereas when you go clockwise, it actually helps your plants a lot better because you're going more with just the tune of the earth, the tune of the sun. All right. So copper is the way to go, but copper is expensive. That's the problem. And trying to find copper tools in Canada, good luck. Good luck. Because no one was making copper tools. They're making copper cups.
Yeah.
They're making copper wires, but copper tools, no. I had to get some copper tools from England, of all places. And the price, let me tell you, I've had a lot of plants coming from these copper cups, and copper scissors and everything. So copper works. It actually works. It's just giving your soil back what your soil needs, what we've taken out of our soil. We've, in North America alone, we've destroyed our soil. We have actually destroyed our soil from all the onset of all the big farms and all the chemicals. We've destroyed it. So now we got to regenerate. We got to give back. Her other question, part of her question,
Japanese beetle and rodents.
Oh, geez, Japanese beetles. I do the same thing when it comes to alcohol, rubbing alcohol, stuff like that. When it comes to rodents, one thing I do, and some people go, oh, I can't believe you do that. So I have a cat at home.
Yeah. That's the answer.
So I have a cat at home. So I make sure that when I'm actually cleaning out the litter, I remove all the feces, but in the litter, you still have the urine from the cats.
Oh.
And I take that kitty litter and I go far enough away from my little plot and put it around where I want it to go. When the rodents smell that cat, they're not going to come to your garden.
Okay.
They're going to someone else's. They're going to stay away.
So if anyone learned anything tonight to take home is adopt a cat.
or plant a lot of garlic and onions or mint and stuff like that. But there's ways to get around it. I figured I had a cat. It's free. It's right there. I'm going to use this. Didn't want to use coyote urine because that costs a lot of money, right? It was right there. It's free.
Yeah.
Not hurting anyone. It's the ammonia. When it goes back to the ground will take care of it. She knows that Mother Nurse knows how to break down ammonia and do what she needs to do with it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna speak to the Japanese beetle part. they love certain flowers that we grow. And what we've noticed over time as we're building the soil is a stressed out plant attracts bugs. They know because it tastes better.
Yeah.
And so we've noticed over time that we have less and less sort of bug population. This year we had hops, we call those grasshoppers for the first time. And yeah, that was new. We use organza bags to protect some of our like big dahlias, but other than that, it's gotten a lot better. And in terms of rodents, I don't know if you struggle with squirrels. We grow in residential yards. One trick we have is when it comes to bulb planting, which we do a lot in the fall, is we actually delay our planting season until November. Like we're still planting right now with the weather. In November, the squirrels have like mostly subsided in burying their nuts, so they're less likely to rifle through our beds. And in the spring, when they're going around and decapitating our tulips, that's because they're looking for water. They're thirsty. There's no water sources around because there's so few foliage. And so if you actually set out dishes of water for them, they'll more likely leave your flowers alone.
I found for rodents, both for a variety of them, is like in on the Peterborough space, putting up a perch and to take advantage of the birds of prey that are abundant. And they are especially, we don't often see them, but the populations are massive in our cities because there are rodents everywhere. So give them a comfortable spot to find those rodents, and it helps a lot. But also, I grow a small crop every year of really intensely hot peppers. And then I essentially produce homemade pepper spray that goes in every time I'm basically that gets put into every time I'm watering. So it just ends up all over the plants all of the time. And it's worked. It's worked incredibly well. And if there's any hard spots, kind of hand spraying it in close. But yeah, I mean, the fact is that they go after damaged plants. And so if I'm getting pests come in, whether that's insects or whatever, that tells me that my plants have needs I'm not meeting. There might be a nutrient deficiency, or they need some kind of protection or assistance from the elements because it's been harsh or things like that. So I use it as a sign that I'm missing something in that total piece of producing like ecological balance in space.
Thank you again to our panelists, Sylvia, Isaac, and Jer. And now, just to quickly close the night, really walking over here is Andrew.
So I can get on the camera. I just wanted to thanks our panelists. Fantastic night. Sit. All right. Okay, then I can be on camera for real. Great. Hi, everybody. Okay. So, thank you, Jared. Thank you, Isaac. This was like a very great evening. I feel really happy to be here and to hear all of your knowledge and stories. And I look forward to having some juice with you a little bit later. But I also want to thank everybody at home who came.
Or driving.
Or driving. Michelle, be safe. Yes, please contact me about partnership opportunities at King Campus. That'd be really great. But just so happy about the turnout online and the turnout in person as well. Thank you everybody for coming. This is great. Thank you for your questions. And right after this, right after I finish talking, so I won't talk too long. There's more food, there's more drinks, there's fruit, there's coffee, which I labored to bring here. So please drink some. And but before I finish talking, I do want to just talk about the course a little bit, the Toronto Urban Farmer Training course. So it's wonderful to see Jer and Isaac here, who went through our first pilot session of the course last spring, which I hope was helpful. I'm going to talk to you about that a little later afterwards. And welcome to everybody who's currently taking this iteration of the course. And I'm hoping that actually, before I talk about the future of the course, I do want to just talk about the OMAFRA award that we did win. So based on our previous run, thanks to everyone who was in our group and all the great feedback we've got, we actually won an award from OMAFRA for excellence in agri-food education. OMAFRA is the Ontario Ministry for agriculture,
Food and rural affairs.
Thank you, food and rural affairs. I think it's really a testament to not just the team that put the course together, which is not really me, but is everybody here. Rhonda, James, West, Cy, Kinley, Angela, and Leslie, who's not here. And Eric and Krisha, yeah, who you've met as well. We've met Eric and
Not yet coming.
and Krisha is going to be, I think, the next one.
Few.
Okay. I don't know what the order of the course is, but just congratulations to the team and congratulations to everyone who took the course as well, because I think, you know, being in this network, I'm seeing so many people coming together and being involved in urban agriculture, and I'm hoping that what this grows into a wider network where we can really all work together. Now, saying that, our grant, which is funding all of this education and all of these events from the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, is coming to an end in the end of the next growing season. And so what we are planning, I'm hoping, is that we work together and offer the course yearly post grants. So I think this will be a big success for the program, for the project, and for urban agriculture, hopefully in Toronto. And I think I said everything that I want to say. So thank you, everybody, again, and enjoy some food. And just one more round of applause for our
All right, so.
Adjourn.